Hi everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a technique for you to easily import Canvas Commons resources into your class. This is a super easy thing to do, and it's something that can be very valuable because you could take advantage of all the resources that have been set up for you here on Canvas Commons. So we'll look at some different steps here. First off, you'll go to Canvas Commons, and the easiest way to do that is to find your navigation menu here, leftmost menu on your column going down. And you're going to click on the Commons icon, which looks like a little sharing icon because indeed, once you get started with Canvas Commons, you immediately realize that this is a repository. You can think of it as a hard drive that stores all the content out there, whether it's LTCC content that you create and maybe share with your colleagues. If you're a department chair, you could share it with your part-time instructors and staff and so forth. So the easiest thing to do first is to go to Canvas Commons. If you're going to do anything with importing resources in your class, take advantage of the search bar up here. As you can see, 216,000 current results. Back when COVID first started, there were somewhere around 80,000 results. So you see that one real weird fringe benefit of COVID-19 is the fact that more classes have gone online and thus more resources are being shared out there with the community. You can also think of Canvas Commons through that metaphor of open educational resources or zero textbook cost resources, which have become so popular here in the community colleges. So to get started, if you're looking for anything for your class, you would type in a keyword, like I could look for anthropology, and all the resources will come up at that point, and this is actually a lot better. I remember looking at this in the past, and it's grown significantly, again, over that last year or so, even longer before we were pre-COVID. Now, one of the things you can do is you can filter results up here by the type of resources. So if you only want modules, you click there. If you only want entire courses, you click there, and it adapts as you click. And so that's really great to be able to customize and figure out exactly what you want to look for. If you click on only Lake Tahoe Community College approved resources, that would also filter out some of the results. You can also click on grade level. You can look at the resource sharing and who it was shared with and so forth. You can also then sort by most relevant, most favorited, most downloaded, and latest. So in some respects, it parallels like if you go onto Yelp or social media sites where you can filter by, say, the highest rated Yelp restaurant in your area and thus get those results. You can filter by distance on Yelp and so forth. So that's very handy to be able to take advantage of. But really what we're going to do today is look at importing one resource, which is an LTCC student mental health resource that I think will be very useful for all of you. So what I would recommend is we'll start at the beginning under search, and let's clear anthropology, because all the resources that I create for you are going to have an LTCC tag. I really recommend you just type in LTCC. You don't even have to hit return. And then what happens is all of the resources come up for you here. So it's really handy because it allows you to quickly gather a sense of what's out there and what's very specific to LTCC. And so now that we've done that, let's try importing this into our class. So today we're going to look at LTCC Mental Health Support, the module I created. You could do this with any of the resources you find on Canvas Commons. So use this technique that we're talking about to import anything into Canvas Commons. So once I found the resource I want, I can click here. By the way, at this point, if you ever want to save this or share this with others, you have two options here, which are super handy. I can add it to my favorites, and then that allows me when I click later to easily pull that up. I can also copy the resource link. So it's copied to my clipboard, and if I now go to a new page and hit my paste command, you'll see here it takes me immediately to that resource. So this is super handy. If you're teaching in world languages and you want to share some resources with your new faculty, or in anthropology we want to do that, we could easily copy that resource link and then share that with our faculty. The minute they log on to Canvas, then they will see that. They'll just click on that resource and it'll be available, just pop up for them in Canvas Commons basically. So that's very easy just to remember that just when you go and you search for something. So again, I'll click on the resource that I want. And this is our step 2. So step 1 was finding Canvas Commons and understanding how it works. Step 2 is we want to bring this into our class. Now, when you click on the import and download, you have two different options. One is you can download it here at the bottom. It's going to save that as a zip file. That's really trickier to bring into your class. it takes some additional steps with a file on your desktop. I really recommend against that. Go for the easiest option, which is going to be the option at the top. And let's just look at that one more time. So again, I found my resource, and you'll see the resource has a title. This is a module. And you can always tell what you're getting because it'll have everything listed, and these are all clickable. So it has one module, which includes the Timely Care page and the other student mental health resources page. You can click on pages, those come up, and then it's going to include one file. And I very carefully titled this and gave it an alt text. So this is my mental health banner, which is just something I took directly from the ltcc.edu website. So anytime you bring something in as a resource and you have images and so forth, think about the fact that you want to make sure that you've thought carefully about the image, how it looks, the alt text, and all that kind of good stuff that we know about with accessibility. But this is very important because if someone doesn't get the banner included here, if somehow, which would be hard, but if you forgot to upload that, it would be missing, if you will, that particular part of the entire resource. So think about if you're creating your own Canvas Commons resources, and this is very easy to do as well. All you have to do is in any of your classes, and let me just show you this technique, it's worth looking at now. You could share whatever you want to Canvas Commons, very intuitive to do. If I have a module that I've created, like let's say my Getting Started module that I want to share with my other instructors, they could bring this in. So all I would have to do is I could send it to someone or copy to. So this gives me some additional options, even bypassing Canvas Commons. But if I want to share this to Canvas Commons, I just click that Share to Commons button. And then this is very easy, this step. All I have to do is decide on exactly how I want to share this, the licensing, the restrictions, is it a template, a textbook, title, description, and the tags I really recommend, highly important to put your tags in to make sure that if you're sharing it with the wider world or even the LTCC community, that people are able to understand exactly what's been shared via the tags. Meta tagging data, so important to everything we do today, ranging from Spotify and now even to Canvas. So I'm not going to go through this step with you, but if you want to share anything to Canvas Commons, that's the best way to do it, and you could do that directly from your class. So super easy to work on if you want to do any of that. Well, we're talking about bringing this into our class. So again, we've identified I want to bring in this entire module, which will, as these are nested here, include 2 pages and 1 file. And so I'm going to click on Import and Download. I'm not going to do download. So here is where I will see all my classes. And these are only going to be classes that you have rights to. What I mean by that is you have designer rights, you have instructor rights, you can go in and change content. If you're enrolled in a class, let's say for Canvas certification or some other training that we're doing at the college, and you're enrolled as a student, you will not see that class listed on this import menu because, of course, any class that our students are enrolled in, they can't go in and change things with the exception of some of the permissions maybe on wiki pages if you do wiki work inside of your pages within Canvas. For the most part, though, the content is the sole purview or right to the instructor or the course designer. So just make that note, because if you don't see a class up here, that's one of the reasons, because you don't have the rights to actually edit that class. Very easy to do. So I'm going to bring this in as an import into, let's try one of my current classes, the Anthropology of Music and Sound. I can search for it, and that will allow me to very quickly, if it's a long list, discover that class and import it into it. Just going to click my class that I want, Anthro 131 AG. And then I just have to scroll to the bottom of this. Again, your menu might be a lot smaller if you only have a current set of classes. And then I click Import into Class. Very easy. All it says here is you've successfully started the import. It might take a while to see changes in your class. I've discovered, at least for these miniature or small set of resources that I'm including for you, that it's almost instantaneous. So I'll show you that right now. This is in real time. We're going to click on Dashboard. And now I'm going to go to the class that I imported that resource into. And this is now going to be step 3 of our process. So you've imported the resource into your class. How can you customize that? How can you move it around and change it if it's a module or pages to put it where exactly you like in your class, even as your front page if you wanted to do that. So because it was a module resource, I'll click on my modules. It's also going to import it into pages, and then it's also going to import that file I believe, presumably into the Files tab. Now, what I've noticed here is anytime you do an import, it always puts, in the case of a module here or pages, everything at the bottom. So I scroll to the bottom and I discover the mental health support module is indeed available. I can click on it and see that my image came through and all of the text. And I've already checked these for you, these links, and then we can look at our second page. And that is the other student mental health resources. Again, I took these directly from the LTCC website. Thank you for members of the Equity Committee. I know Sarah and Kata both mentioned that it would be great to have this resource, and it was one of the reasons I wanted to bring it out and really help publicize it, because I know there's been a big rollout of Timely Care MD, Timely Care here at the college for our students. So we see that that is now available. And let me just show you, just if you're curious, if I go to my pages, because anytime you create a new page in Canvas, it's going to actually show it at the top, depending on how I filter this. So what I could do is here click creation date. And because these are the newest ones brought into my class, today I'm recording this video on December 11th, 2021, you see at the very top, those pages are now available. So this is where I'm saying you can customize. So if you get a resource from me or others on campus, and you want to go in, you own it at this point. So I can go in and edit that resource even though it came from Canvas Commons. I can change things around. I can add my own custom text and so forth. So this is why I love Canvas Commons so much, because all the resources are customizable. You don't have to worry about changing things. If you want to change things, great. If you don't have to. If you want to move things around, you can also move things around here inside your class. So the next thing I might want to do then, again, we're in step 3 here, customizing the content imported from Canvas Commons. I could move the module. Maybe I want this module to actually be at the very top because I really want it to be something, and you have choices here, before, after, at the bottom. So I'll put it at the very top. And then once I do that, it will immediately put it up there for me. So you can see here it's now available to my students. And I'm actually going to leave this in my class because even though I do have some resources on my Getting Started module here, this is, I think, something really important. Now, let's say I don't want a separate module and I want to put mental health support as part of this. I could actually go in and I could take these pages. You can't, or actually you can in real time. You could just put Timely Care here. You could put other mental health resources here. So the great thing about the modules page is you can drag and drop things to where you might want to put them. And that really makes it, I think, even more customizable as you're working on things. And again, just keep fiddling it with you here if you want the order to change. I can also take any of my modules that I have. If I already have a student module, let's say, all I'd have to do is click on my add page, and then I could search specifically for that new resource that I just created. And I'm going to remember here it's under T. So once I find that, Timely Care, I could add that item. And then it appears here. Again, the import process, what was step 2, working through a Canvas Commons resource, always means that once you import that, you can customize that resource wherever you want it to be. I can delete it here or remove it. I remove the item from the module. Keep in mind, when I remove the item from the module, it doesn't delete it from the class. The only way to do that would be to go on my Pages tab, click on that, and specifically move it to the trash. If I did that, I would have to go back to Canvas Commons to re-import that resource. But the thing about it is, if it's a resource that lives inside Canvas Commons, you really can't mess up. If you do, you could re-import it. If you ever have any questions, you could reach out to me or the director of distance education, online learning, and we can answer any of those questions that you might have. So that is the basic process here. Again, today we looked at what Canvas Commons is. We looked at how to search for a resource using that very important meta tag of LTCC. We then clicked the import button, not the download button. Once we imported it into our class, we were able then to customize the Canvas resource, in this case, the mental health support module, the 2 pages, and the image, however we want it to appear in our class. If we want to change the text or anything like that, very, very easy to do for us. So hopefully that's going to be helpful. Again, any of the resources that you will find when you click on the very handy Canvas Commons, and again, if we're looking for LTCC resources, I specifically recommend you look for that meta tag because all of our current tags will pop up here, and you can import these into your class. So this technique will work with anything you find on Canvas Commons. If you have any questions, please reach out. I encourage all of you, if possible, to definitely include the LTCC Mental Health Support module inside of your class. You don't have to do anything new. Import it. It will immediately be there. And the next time you teach that class the second time, you can import the entire class, and that will perpetuate itself and continue to appear in your class from one quarter to the next. So that's going to be it today. If you have any other questions, please reach out, and I'll be back with additional videos here talking about LTCC teaching and learning. Thanks for listening.